Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to the Foreign Press Centers. And hello to everyone in New York who's joining us. Today we're very pleased to welcome back to the podium here at the FPC's our Deputy Spokesperson, Mark Toner. Thank you.
Thanks. How do I do the New York? Do I just turn to them or they'll pop up? Great, wonderful. Hey, everybody. Well, always a pleasure to come back here. It's been too long, but here I am. Happy Wednesday? Is it Wednesday or Thursday? It's Thursday. I apologize. It's the first wrong thing I've said. Anyway, happy Thursday. It's a beautiful day, by the way. I hope everyone gets to get outside and take a walk and enjoy it. Look, I'll say the same thing I said over at the State Department briefing at the top, and then I'll just move to your questions. So just before we get started, I did want to strongly condemn what was a barbaric terrorist attack earlier today in Iraq, deliberately targeting innocent civilians. I think killed at least 25 people, injured many more. Obviously, we extend our deepest condolences to the victims' families and their friends, and remain steadfast in our support for the Iraqi government and the Iraqi people in their fight against Daesh. These attacks by Daesh, as well as the cowardly attack, I think, on June 7th in Baghdad and Karbala, that also targeted dozens of innocent civilians, are just who were, I think, celebrating the beginning of Ramadan. They're stark reminders of why we must defeat this enemy. So we continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Iraqi citizens of Iraq, as well as the Iraqi government and Iraqi security forces in their struggle. With that, I will begin answering questions. Who's first? Sure.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Chen with Shenzhen Media Group. First, I wanted to know, the SNED meetings just closed. Can you tell me any specific high priority foreign affairs issues that were discussed but remain unresolved? And is there a calendar date and agenda for Secretary Carter's next trip to China? Second, the U.S. defense official said a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft flying Tuesday in international airspace over the East China Sea was intercepted in an unsafe manner by a Chinese fighter jet. We know similar incidents have occurred prior to the SID meetings. Were these actions discussed in relation to the rules of behavior for safety of air and maritime encounters? And can you give me some details about the content of additional annexes to the notification of major military activities mode? Last, if China continues its expansion activities in the South China Sea, what will the specific consequences from the U.S. be? How long can this tit for tat go on?
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a very multifaceted question. I'll do my best to answer it as completely as I can. First, I think I'll start with what you mentioned, which is this intercept that took place over the East China Sea, rather, which I think you were referring to. In fact, my understanding of that is we did not have that come to the attention of the traveling party that was in Beijing until, I think, after they were wheels up, after they'd already left Beijing. But of course, we've made clear our concerns about these kinds of unsafe and provocative air intercepts by the Chinese, and we're going to continue to do so. We did, obviously, for this one as well. And, more broadly, tensions in the maritime domain were certainly discussed overall in Beijing. You mentioned what came out of the SNED. This is, I think, the 8th round of this format. First of all, I'd refer you, we put out a media note that kind of summarizes what was discussed, what was agreed upon, what came out of the SNED. But speaking broadly about the discussions, it really does offer an opportunity. When you look at the U.S.-China relationship, certainly we recognize, the United States, that China is an important bilateral relationship and frankly, multilateral relationship in the sense that we cooperate with China on a number of fronts, whether it be climate change, whether it be Iran nuclear agreement. And so this format, the SNED, Strategic and Economic Dialogue, gives us an opportunity to really sit down, sit across from our Chinese counterparts and talk about tough issues, and then also focus on areas where we believe we can cooperate and move forward, and expand those areas of cooperation. I'd say on the strategic track, there was progress made to expand cooperation on a number of fronts, areas of health, science, education, security, and as I said, climate change. Others areas of cooperation and discussion included, of course, North Korea. We obviously share our concern about North Korea's destabilizing activities, provocative behavior in the Korean Peninsula, and the threat that that poses to the region. And that was certainly a part of the discussions that we had with China. We talked about Iran. We talked about the situation in Syria. We raised our areas where we have concerns as well with China. That included the recently adopted law regarding the management of foreign NGO activities. And then more broadly, human rights, our concerns about, ongoing concerns about human rights situation in China. And again, this part of the benefits of this dialogue is that it allows us, we have very frank and candid exchanges with China. And that is to both our benefits, to be able to outline areas where we disagree and talk through those areas where we can hopefully we can find common ground. And then part of that again was South China Sea, and you had raised that as well in your question. You know, I think there's no surprise. There's nothing new to our position on the South China Sea. We've long called for and consistently called for all South China Sea claimants, and that doesn't just include China. There's a number of claimants. We are not, in fact, claimants. But we've called on them to peacefully resolve disputes through international legal mechanisms. That includes arbitration, but that every effort be made to avoid escalating tensions in the South China Sea. And again, that claimants, those who are claimants, pursue their claims through peaceful, diplomatic, internationally accepted means. We want to see a lowering of tensions in the South China Sea. We want to see all parties refrain from, as I said, unilateral actions, unilateral reactions that we believe will only inflame tensions. And we want to see a respect for international law. And that does, of course, include law of the sea and freedom of navigation. And that's where we stand in terms of we believe that we have the right to fly our planes and sail our ships where we are internationally or legally allowed to do so. I don't yet. No, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. No, I don't have any clear agenda. I refer you to the Department of Defense for sure.
Do you think is there any space
I'll get
to
there.
improve the mechanism of the SND for the next administration?
Look, I think we're always looking to improve it. I think the more iterations that there are of it, you know, certainly it's and I've gone to several of these myself. To some extent it's choreographed. That's to be expected because of the format. But again, it offers, and I've heard others talk about it in this way, that it does offer a format that allows us to sit down across the table with Chinese counterparts and talk productively and I think, as I said, candidly about some of these issues. And that has led to real progress. And again, there's several examples, but one of which is the climate the COP21 agreement that was reached, and China was pivotal in helping get there. So, there's certainly always ways to improve this kind of dialogue going forward, and I think it'll continue to evolve, but we believe it's a very effective mechanism. Please, sir. And I'll go in the back after this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Turner.
Sure.
I'm Carlos Franganillo from Television of Spain TV. Yep. I would like to ask you a few questions about Spain,
sure.
The coming trip of President Obama to Spain.
Sure.
He will be there on July the 9th. Well, the last trip of an American president to Spain was in 2001. There is a big gap in time, 15 years, between the 70s and 2001. Every 6 years, a president was visiting Spain. Of course, the withdrawal of the Spanish troops from Iraq spoiled the relations for some time. I would like you to explain this big gap in time. And my second question and last is, at the end of this month, Spain is going to hold general elections. There will be an acting president receiving Mr. Obama. That's not very usual. I would like to develop a little bit about that.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to disappoint you, I think, in my answer, because in general, we don't talk about the president's or the White House's planned trips or travel in advance of the trip itself. I'd have to refer you to the White House to talk about its plans or the president's plans for his trip to Spain. In terms of the gap, as you noted, between the previous high-level or presidential visit, rather, look, I mean, we have a strong partnership, a strong alliance with Spain that continues. We look for Spain's support on a number of fronts, on a number of security issues, and that includes certainly Afghanistan and other NATO operations where Spain plays a very productive and constructive role. In terms of the political transition that's going on in the campaign season in Spain, we're certainly respectful and mindful of that process in Spain, certainly as a democratic nation, and the democratic processes that are currently underway in Spain. But I think the president also wants to take advantage of the fact that he will be in Europe and to visit and to just simply convey the strong message that we remain a committed partner to Spain as we address a number of global issues together. I mean, Spain, as a member of the EU, and the EU itself is an integral partner for the U.S. On many multilateral issues, whether it's refugees, whether it's Syria, whether it's Iran's behavior. There's a number of issues that we look to the EU, and certainly Spain as a member of the EU, for partnership and guidance on. Let's go way in the back. You, sir. You, yep.
Hi, I'm Lauri Tankler with the Estonian Public Broadcasting.
Sure.
I have a question about the NATO summit that's coming up in July. Can you discuss some of the possible outcomes that the United States is looking for from the NATO summit? We've seen a lot of leaks about the number of battalions or anything like that. Can you, is there anything you can expand on here? And also, can you what would you say about reactions by Russia that, some of these numbers of battalions or deterrence is provocative and they will respond?
Well, I'm not going to get out too far in front of the NATO summit. Of course, it was just recently with the secretary in Brussels, where there was a NATO foreign ministerial. And again, part of the reason behind that ministerial was preparation for the summit in Warsaw. You mentioned some of the issues, these battalions, and then reassurance efforts that are still underway along or in the Baltics and elsewhere within NATO's borders. We're going to continue to pursue those efforts. we're going to talk about a lot of different issues at the summit, including ongoing NATO operations in Afghanistan and commitment to those operations in Afghanistan. And we're also going to talk about other aspects, including NATO's open door policy. Those are all, I think, on the table to be discussed at a summit. In terms of Russia's objections to some of these reassurance activities that NATO's undertaken, look, we've been very clear that the alliance needs to prepare itself and needs to have the capabilities to defend all members of the alliance. And certainly it was mindful of some of the activities that Russia had undertaken, certainly in Ukraine, but elsewhere along the border with some NATO countries, that we felt it was important to reassure all allies of our commitment to their protection. And we continue to work on those, as I said, those reassurance initiatives. Let's be very clear that NATO is only as effective as it is capable. And so that's always a priority for NATO to make sure that it has the capabilities to react. And that is everything from a conventional invasion to other threats that we all face in a modern world. That includes cyber threats as well. These are all, and that's certainly going to be among the issues addressed at the summit. What are the threats that NATO allies are facing, and how do we position the alliance to respond to those threats going forward? And as I said, there's a range of them, and from the cyber realm to the threat, as I said, that they face from other areas. But those will all be under consideration in Warsaw.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
My name is Andrei.
Andrew.
Thank you. Andrei Sitov from TASS. Thank you for doing this.
Sure.
Thanks to our hosts, as always, for the briefing. The follow-up is simple. Do you still see the NATO-Russia Council as a working mechanism that should be employed?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of your...
That should be employed as a working mechanism that still works and that should work.
Sure. I mean, I'd have to really refer you to NATO to talk about, the future of the NATO-Russia Council. We, the United States, have said that, given that we should be able to talk to Russia when we need to and have dialogue when we need to and when we have areas where we can cooperate on, but that there should be no return to business as usual, given our concerns about Russia's ongoing behavior in eastern Ukraine. So these are all issues on the table to be discussed. Oh yeah, let's go to New York. Please, sir.
Hi. Hi, Abaday from Turkey. 2 days ago in Istanbul, another terrorist attack killed 11 people. And this is the fifth bombing last 5 months in Istanbul and Ankara, the biggest cities in Turkey. And in March, government ordered the families of United States military and diplomatic personnel to leave parts of southern Turkey. Will government give the same order for the families who live in Istanbul and Ankara? I have second question. Today, 5 Turkish journalists faces from 21 to 74 years imprisonment if found guilty of revealing state secrets in their news. And one of them, Yasemin Çongar, Turkish-American citizen. Will you send your ambassador to case because President Erdogan harshly criticized for that?
Okay, starting, your first question was about, excuse me, just to make sure I heard it correctly, was about whether we would enact any kind of security measures regarding recent terrorist attacks in Istanbul. Was that your question?
Yes.
Yeah. We're always very hesitant to preview or really discuss in any detail the security posture of our embassy. and our embassy, our mission staff in any country, including Turkey. That said, we also take the safety of Americans and American citizens abroad very seriously. And if we did have what we believe to be credible intelligence about or information about a pending terrorist attack or threat, we would certainly convey that to American citizens who are residing in Turkey. Again, this is not just specific to Turkey, but it's standard procedure around the world. At this point in time, we have not, nor do we plan to, change our security posture for the U.S. Mission and missions in Turkey. But again, we're always assessing our security posture. And again, that's not specific to Turkey. That's standard around the world. We're certainly concerned, and we recognize and have expressed our sympathy for the recent attacks on innocent Turkish civilians and others who were victims of these recent terrorist attacks in Turkey. And we'll continue to consult, to coordinate where we can with Turkey on combating terrorism within its borders. Your second question, I've forgotten. Oh, it was about the arrest of some journalists. I apologize.
And faces from imprisonment if they found guilty about their news. And one of them, Turkish-American citizen, will you send your ambassador to case? Do you plan to watch the case? Because President Erdogan harshly criticized the same situation in Can Dündar's case.
Well, I'm not aware of the specific case you're referring to. I can say that we obviously take freedom of the press and issues related to the freedom of the press very seriously. I know that, in fact, there was an immunity legislation that was signed recently, and I spoke to this earlier today, that would lift parliamentary immunity for more than 100 members of Turkey's parliament, where we expressed our concern about that as an infringement on free speech and political speech. So we do take these issues very seriously. We watch them closely, and we express our concerns to Turkish authorities because we have a strong partnership and alliance with Turkey, and we feel that when we do have concerns, we can express those concerns to the Turkish government. Let's go to you, sir.
Hello, my name is Yaroslav Dolgopol. I'm Ukrainian journalist and represent the National News Agency of Ukraine here. So my question is about Ukraine. We see Russia and pro-Russian rebels in the eastern part of Ukraine failing to uphold a ceasefire, to withdraw weapons and troops. You guys consistently underscore that all of these points are necessary to progress on further implementation of the Minsk agreement. What the additional steps the US and your European partners gonna to do to advance the peace process? Thank you.
Sure. Well, a couple of points to make about that. So we do remain, first of all, very concerned about continuing violations of the ceasefire along the entire ceasefire line. And that still involves, sadly, heavy weaponry that is the types that are prescribed by the Minsk agreements. We believe that the only hope for progress on implementing Minsk effectively and fully is for combined Russian separatist forces to end that violence, cease their efforts to harass and intimidate OSCE monitors, and grant them full access to separatist-controlled territory. There needs also obviously to be progress on both sides, and by both sides I mean on the Ukrainian side as well. And we do believe that Ukraine has made an effort to meet its Minsk commitments. They've, I think, given preliminary approval to some constitutional amendments, decentralize political power. That's one thing they've done. They've also, I think, made some proposals about election modalities on which, frankly, Russia and the separatists have refused to engage on. So, you know, we still believe strongly that the way forward, and frankly, the way for Russia to eventually get sanctions relief is for it to fully implement its Minsk commitments. And we continue to be hopeful that that those can be met. Please, you, sir. Yeah.
Hey, Justin, Yomiuri Shimbun. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
North Korea is convening a parliamentary session on June 29th. Are you expecting anything to come out of that? And secondly, apparently they've reactivated a couple of plutonium reactors. Are you concerned about that? And what is your response to their continued want to create nuclear weapons and try them?
Well, yeah. So to your first question about the, I think you talked about the parliamentary, yeah. You know, it's a pretty opaque system in North Korea, so hard to really have much of an insight on what their motivations might be or what actions they may take in the near term, except to say that we have seen a disturbing pattern of provocative behavior, continued tests or failed tests for some months now that have alarmed us and alarmed all of our allies and partners in the region. And that includes certainly China. We talked about this. This was a topic of discussion at the SNED that took place in Beijing last week. You know, we do have in place the strongest set of sanctions that we've ever had with regard to North Korea. But sanctions are only as strong as they are implemented. And so, you know, we really are urging our partners in the region to implement to the fullest extent possible those sanctions against North Korea, in the hope that they will convince the North Korean regime to address the international community's concerns about its nuclear program. And that continues to be our focus. And again, it was a topic of conversation with China last week. It continues to be a conversation that we're having with our allies and partners in the region. We're also looking at other measures we can take going forward. But again, I think given the pattern that we've seen over the past months, several months, by North Korean government, it is very concerning. Please, ma'am. Oh, sure, we'll follow up on this, yeah. I'll get to you in a second.
Tatsuya Mizumoto from GG Press. I want to follow about the North Korean issue. Do you think China has implemented their obligation to North Korea?
I'll put it this way. I think it's, you know, we're looking, I think China shares our concern about North Korea's behavior. I think China also has concerns about instability caused by North Korea, but also the possible instability or the repercussions of instability that could be caused by hard-hitting sanctions against North Korea. They are, in fact, a neighbor of North Korea. So we recognize those concerns, but we also recognize that China, as such, does have influence on North Korea, and we believe can play an influential role on convincing North Korea, again, to come back and to talks where it can address the international community's concerns.
the one more China.
Of course.
I think, as you know, the Chinese military ship and waters are near to Japanese territorial water near to the Senkaku. Do you recognize the tension in the region between Japan and China is getting higher? Do you recognize that?
You're talking about the region writ large.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, and to the extent that, and it's not just the incident in the East China Sea, although that, certainly we've talked to Japan about that and we've been informed by that. I think that I think there is ongoing concern over China's the measures that China's taken to reclamation, construction along within the or on the South China Sea, the construction of artificial land constructs or what have you on some of these islands, development of these kinds of things that does escalate tensions in the region and does raise concern not just for the United States but for our partners and allies and certainly the other claimants to the South China Sea. And so we just reiterate, and this was a message that we conveyed in Beijing last week, that there needs to be a peaceful, non-confrontational way to resolve some of these claims. And that's what we would encourage. We would encourage a diplomatic process to do so.
Would you say Chinese behavior in Senkaku, near Senkaku, provocative?
Again, I don't know enough about the incident. I know we're in touch with Japan. I don't know enough about the incident to determine whether it was provocative or not. But, these kinds of incidents are always concerning. We've had incidents in the South China Sea and elsewhere where there's near collisions in the air, and those kinds of incidents always, I think, raise concerns, legitimate concerns, not just about the safety, well, certainly foremost about the safety of our airmen and women, and the ability for an accident like that to really escalate and inflame tensions. You, ma'am.
Mahtab Farid, Washington to Iran.
Yeah.
For almost 2 years, Mr. Toner, there's been a lot of talks on a diplomatic pursuit between the United States and Iran, and they did sign a nuclear agreement. But is the United States willing to pursue that a little bit further, perhaps to increase the public diplomacy efforts, the exchange efforts, or probably pursue some of the strategic regional interests like the safe and stable Afghanistan and Iraq?
Those are very good questions, actually. Look, I think, so it is tempting in the aftermath of an agreement like the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal or agreement. It is tempting to think that somehow a door is suddenly open, a bridge has been crossed, however you want to put it, and that suddenly, we'll enter a new era with Iran of closer ties, of more cooperation. It's tempting to think that way. But I think we also need to be cautious. We reached a nuclear agreement with Iran because it was in the interests, security interests, both of the region and of the world, to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. And frankly, we found common ground on that with China, with Russia, with other members of the P5+1, and we're able to really apply the kind of direct pressure on Iran that brought it to the negotiating table. It was an achievement. We believe that deal will prevent Iran from from being able to develop a nuclear weapon, and has, as I said, made the region a good deal safer. But that does not change automatically Iran's behavior in the region in other areas. So we continue to see unconstructive behavior, I'll put it that way, of Iran in other areas, such as Syria, such as Lebanon, such as, well, elsewhere in the region, where it continues to play not a very constructive role. We're mindful of that, and we still believe that we have the ability to, whether it's through sanctions or other methods, to constrain Iran's behavior in that regard. But we like to, it's important to separate the Iran deal from the other aspects or the other issues that we still maintain with Iran. More broadly to your question, which is engaging Iran, trying to, through public diplomacy and other ways, to really reach that next generation of Iranians. I think that's absolutely and fundamentally an important thing to pursue. I think that we're always hopeful that the next generation of Iranians will grow up with a different viewpoint and a different attitude towards the West and certainly towards the United States. And if that's the case, that we can pursue a closer relationship with Iran. And as we have opportunities to develop those kinds of programs, we can certainly look at them, but we're not there yet.
Can I stay on Iran?
Yeah.
Just a quick
Sure.
one, sorry.
Yeah.
So in the there's been a story around the last few days. In the 1970s,
That's okay, I can hear. Oh, I understand. Okay.
A story around in recent days that in the 1970s, Ayatollah Khomeini contacted the Carter administration to say when he takes power, he won't endanger U.S. assets. And that was an influence in the U.S. then not taking action against him subsequently. I just wonder if you've been following that, and if you have any comments, and if you can confirm that there was that contact from Khomeini to the White House.
I apologize. I'm not aware of that, and I don't have any updates to offer. Please. Sure. Let's go to you, sir, and then I promise I'll go to you.
John Zhang with CTI TV of Taiwan.
Yeah.
President Tsai Ing-wen of Taiwan is about to transit through the United States on her first foreign trip. Are there any arrangements that the State Department is making to facilitate her visit? And as a matter of custom, usually the Deputy Secretary of State would call transiting president from Taiwan to discuss bilateral relations. What are the key issues that Secretary Blinken would be talking to her this time? Thank you very much.
So, excuse me. As you alluded to, transits of the United States by high-level Taiwanese officials are based on long-standing U.S. practice that is consistent with the unofficial nature of our relations with Taiwan. And these transits are undertaken, obviously, out of consideration for the safety, for the comfort, for the convenience, and as well for the dignity of the traveler. And there's been certainly no change to the U.S. One China policy, which is based, as you know, on the 3 joint communiques and the Taiwan Relations Act. I would have to refer you in terms of whether she will, in fact transit, President Tsai will transit the United States. I think I'm going to have to refer you to Taipei for details related to her, excuse me, her travel plans. And also, I don't have anything to announce so far or yet as to if she does indeed transit the United States, whether she'll meet with the Deputy Secretary. But certainly, as soon as we are ready to confirm that, we will. Thanks. Why don't you go, sir? And I'll get back to you.
Thank you, sir. So this is Jahan Zebali from Mirabai News TV, Pakistan.
Yeah.
So at many occasions, the United States has said that it will always encourage the good and friendly relations between Pakistan and India. But few decisions now by United States is firing up the already tense atmosphere between the two countries. I'm talking about the NSG, the Nuclear Suppliers Group. As you know, United States announced its support for India to get it into the NSG. So you told me like a couple of weeks ago that it is about the peaceful nuclear technology. But despite knowing the worst ever energy crisis in Pakistan, United States is not ready to get Pakistan into the NSG, but it's supporting India. What is the reason, sir?
So first of all, you asked about Indian and Pakistani relations, and certainly that was one of the discussions, frankly, that was raised at the one of the issues, frankly, that was raised in discussions with Prime Minister Modi. They talked about a wide range of regional issues. In fact, our bilateral relations with India and Pakistan are separate and stand on their own merits. And so I don't think it's not prudent for us to view our security cooperation in the region in kind of a zero-sum game, or zero-sum terms, rather. I think it's important that, and it's important for the countries of the region, that they all have constructive security relationships with each other. And that's Pakistan, that's India, and it's also Afghanistan. We believe that Pakistan and India stand to benefit from practical cooperation and encourage, as you know, direct dialogue aimed at increasing cooperation and reducing tensions. And that includes steps by Pakistan to ensure that its territory is not used to plan attacks in India, and that Pakistan takes steps to address or to go after, I think, all the terrorist groups that are currently using its territory. And that continues to be an area of collaboration and cooperation that we pursue with Pakistan is its counterterrorism operations. You asked about, that's a collective decision reached by the members of the group. I know that, excuse me, as you noted, India is also pursuing membership into the Nuclear Suppliers Group. But certainly if Pakistan wants to pursue that, that's something for all the members of the Nuclear Suppliers Group to consider. Yeah, please, Marcin.
Thank you, Mark. You already mentioned the visit of the President and Secretary Kerry to Poland in the NATO aspect, but there will also obviously be meetings with Polish politicians and the leaders of Poland. So my question is, what's your agenda for those meetings, and what are your expectations with those meetings with the leaders of Poland?
Well, thanks for the question, Marcin. Look, I mean, we have a long and very close relationship with Poland. Obviously, we have deep historical connection with Poland. And as a fellow democracy and an ally, the United States, I think, cares very deeply. We've talked about this before, about Poland. And so I think it's in that regard that we look forward, Secretary Kerry certainly and President Obama look forward to having discussions with Poland's new political leadership to talk about, frankly, the broad range of issues and bilateral issues and multilateral issues that we engage on together. But I think also that would include some of our concerns about the quality of Poland's democracy. Please, let's go to New York. Yep.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Shihabuddin Kislu from Shumai Television. And just I have quick two questions. Number one, will there be any, I know you have already talked about the reason, but will there be any significant changes to the U.S. foreign policy towards the Southeast Asia, especially including the Bangladesh? And how the U.S. administration will look at it after the national election of U.S., number one. Number two, that during the President Obama's G8 summit, were there any sideline meeting between U.S. and Bangladesh? I mean, the bilateral sideline meeting, if there are, would you kindly highlight the issues were discussed?
Okay, I'll try to answer. I know your question was focused on Bangladesh. I'm not sure I heard the full question. I apologize. The audio wasn't terrific. Look, I mean, I think we're predominantly concerned with regard to Bangladesh about the security situation there, and the recent spate of violent murders that we have been alarmed about, expressed our concern about, and we've encouraged the Bangladeshi authorities to bring the perpetrators of these acts to justice and to not allow them to divide the country. I mean, I'd refer you to Bangladeshi authorities to talk more about the investigations into these murders, but I think we're also concerned about, what this spate of violence or these violent attacks say about the stability of the country. We believe that these attacks are being carried out by individuals who are trying to stifle independent thought and expression, and to deal violently with anyone who disagrees with them. We're confident that these attacks don't represent the views of the overwhelming majority of Bangladeshis. We believe Bangladesh has a proud tradition of pluralism and is a society that values diversity. And so we're going to continue to engage with Bangladesh, both on a security or from a security perspective, but also to talk about, again, some of these issues that we believe threaten to divide the country and need to be confronted. I'll stop there. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I'll take a couple more, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, sure.
Michael Ignatiou from Mega TV
Yeah.
Greece. As you know, the president of Turkey is poking religious and historical sensitivities by allowing the Quran to be read daily in St. Sophia Church in Istanbul. And as you know, it's a spiritual home for millions of Christian Orthodox. Do you have any comment about this?
Well, I just would say that we recognize the Hagia Sophia, as you mentioned, is a site of extraordinary significance. And we would encourage the Turkish government to preserve the Hagia Sophia in a way that respects its traditions and its complex history. I'm going to go in the back, and then I'm going to go to New York again. You, sir.
Hi, my name is Nitzan Horowitz. I'm from the Israeli television.
Sure.
I have two questions.
Yep.
First of all, as we witnessed yesterday, violence and terrorism continue. We had a terrible attack in Tel Aviv. Is there any chance that this administration would take some action, some sort of initiative? Still, a lot of time remains, at least half a year, or at least support some kinds of steps in order to promote a solution. And second, the MOU defense deal, defense package with Israel, why wasn't it signed yet? Thank you.
Sure. So first, and I appreciate you raising the very terrible shootings that took place in Tel Aviv yesterday. In fact, we issued a statement, but again, I have the opportunity to condemn very strongly these attacks on innocent Israeli civilians. We extend our deepest condolences to the families to those killed, and our hopes for a speedy recovery of those wounded in the attack. And as I said in the statement, these kinds of cowardly attacks against innocent civilians can never be justified. We're, of course, in touch with Israeli authorities to express our support and concern. You had talked about, I think, whether there's enough time left, is how you put it, if I could condense or paraphrase your question, with regard to a peace process. Look, I mean, you know, the Secretary, I think, and I'd refer you to his remarks, he spoke very eloquently about it. It was at a press conference that he gave after a meeting in Brussels a couple weeks ago at NATO. And he was asked whether he would attend the French conference, which he did. It was held in Paris last week. And, you know, he was very clear that there's no deadline to pursuing a two-state solution. And that, as far as he's concerned, he will continue to pursue any and all efforts to that end. And he went to Paris, I think, to express the fact that he remains open-minded and that he remains open to new ideas and new approaches to Middle East peace. All that said, I think we also recognize that, you know, ultimately what we need to see on the ground is steps by both sides to create the conditions, to create the environment that can lead back to a negotiated settlement and talks that directly address the issues between the two sides. And so that's what we look to and where our efforts will remain focused, is how do you build that? I don't want to call it confidence building measures because that's probably overstating it, but you know, how do you build the momentum? How do you build the environment, the climate that can possibly lead to, God bless you, sorry, that can lead to talks being restarted? And that's where our focus remains. And we're always going to be willing to have those discussions, whether it's with like-minded countries and governments, and again, Paris was an example of that. But again, as the Secretary travels throughout the Gulf and throughout the Middle East, he's always open to discussing new initiatives, new ideas, and certainly he frequently talks to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and always among the topics that they discuss are ways to build that momentum.
A follow-up to that?
Sure thing.
Are you worried about about Russia and Israel growing together and the leaders between the two countries meeting often?
No. No, not at all. And I just said this. I actually got the same question, Andre, back at the State Department earlier today. I mean, it's not for us to judge who Russia pursues and who Israel pursues bilateral relations with. That's their sovereign right. We just want, and we believe we have, a very close relationship with, certainly with Israel, where we can discuss all these issues and have a candid exchange on all the issues that we, sorry, on all the issues. Apologize. Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Last week,
I'll take New York too after you, please.
Okay. Last week, Wall Street Journal said that both Israel and the Palestinians seek Egypt to broker the peace efforts. So how do you see this as feasible, and how do you see that Egypt can play an effective role in this? And if Secretary Kerry has any plans to have more contacts in the near future with Egypt regarding the peace efforts? Thank you.
Sure. So he did meet recently in Cairo with the president, and among the issues they discussed was Middle East peace. And of course, President Sisi made some remarks, I think, shortly before that meeting that we viewed as constructive. Again, I would just reiterate what I just said, which is that I think the Secretary is very open to new ideas, new initiatives, new approaches, new creative thinking, and certainly that can come and could very well come, rather, from Egypt and from other leading Arab countries, could play that kind of influential role in restarting peace talks. Somebody asked me, I apologize, asked me about the MOU between, I apologize, I just forgot. I don't have any, I mean, discussions are ongoing with Israel, as you know, aimed at concluding this, it's a 10-year memorandum of understanding. I don't have any updates on that. Those discussions continue. We certainly remain hopeful that we can reach an agreement, but I just don't have anything more conclusive to say at this point. Just didn't want to let you think I forgot. Let's go to New York, and then one more question here.
Hello, I'm Ksenia Baygarva, and I represent Russian news agency Interfax. So I have two quick questions on forthcoming economic forum on St. Petersburg. So do I understand correctly that the American officials will not attend at any level at this event, or maybe somebody will come? Could you please clarify? And is it true that the U.S. was strongly unhappy because of decision of the EU President Jean-Claude Juncker to visit St. Petersburg?
So the first part of your question was, yeah, it was going to, yeah, sure. So we've talked to members of the U.S. business community. Look, I mean, frankly, our position hasn't changed. We, from the U.S. government, are not going to attend the forum at any level. In our engagements with U.S. companies, we have conveyed that we continue to believe that there are risks, both economic and reputational, I put it that way, that would be associated with top-level engagement with a government that continues to, we believe, flout international rule of law by intervening militarily in a neighboring country. And by neighboring country, I mean Ukraine. You know, and we've tried to send a very clear and consistent message, working with our EU partners through sanctions, primarily, that we cannot return to a normal and a business-as-usual environment or relationship with Russia until it complies with its Minsk commitments. And we've communicated that policy and consistently with Russia. As you well know, Secretary speaks to Foreign Minister Lavrov very frequently. And that also, frankly, speaks to, if I could put it this way, the complexity of the relationship. Because, as you well know, we do have areas of cooperation with Russia. That included, obviously, the Iran nuclear deal. And it does include our efforts to bring about a political resolution to the conflict in Syria. But we also have to remain very clear on the areas where we have strong differences with Russia, and that remains Russia's behavior in Ukraine. One more question here. You, sir, in the back with it. You look like...
Follow-up about Pakistan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ambassador Olson is going to Pakistan tomorrow, and I guess Peter Lavoie would accompany him. What's the agenda? And especially given that after the attacks, the sentiments have been really hot on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't have in front of me a laydown of what the agenda will be for the visit. I can only guess that they will talk about some of the recent activities, as you mentioned, that included the strike that took out the Taliban commander, and our ongoing concerns about security along the border region, the Pakistan-Afghan border, and more broadly, our desire to see an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process, if I could put it that way, or talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government. We do believe that that is ultimately the way to bring about peace and to resolve the conflict in Afghanistan, and that remains an area of focus. But we're also going to obviously talk about other areas of cooperation on counterterrorism with Pakistan. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.